Hi, so another commonly asked question is, why do I keep breaking my point shoe shanks? Now personally that doesn't apply to me, but people with strong feet in particular will have this problem. There is actually quite a simple reason for this, and there's, a simple science behind it. The reason is you're most likely in the wrong shank or the wrong style of shoe, or both combined together. Now, the reason you might be in the wrong shank is typically because if you're in a full shank and it's quite strong, like for example, dancers who have strong feet are often told to go for super strong shanks. Sometimes they even have custom order shanks that are made really strong, but they're a full shank. That's the reason why people are going wrong. If you've got, now this is a super soft shank, this is my own point shoe, but I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes. If you've got a full shank point shoe, it means that the shank runs all the way up to the end of the heel. It does provide some dancers with really good support, but typically I wouldn't put a really strong foot in a full shank because it will snap most easy. Now the science behind that is, now imagine you've got a strong foot, it's in the point shoe, and all the weight of the dancer is going on that shank. Basically, if you've got a full shank, it's likely not to bend where it's meant to bend, which is at the arch, unless it's really well broken in. But typically I see dancers that are going through shanks quickly is because they're in a full shank shoe and it's not 3/4 or even in some cases half shank. If it's a full shank, it will have a tendency to snap a lot easier, because it's a theory of, imagine you've got say a ruler. Now, a ruler or even a straight twig or piece of wood or whatever, if a lot of pressure is put on that, it will just snap because it's got no flexibility, it's got no option to bend. It's similar with a point shoe. If you've got a full shank and it's not bending where it needs to bend, or there's no flexibility to it, then it will just snap in half. Now, that means that you're going to be spending a lot of money on point shoes, which I'm sure you don't want to be doing. So the easy method for this is get yourself a 3/4 shank, maybe even a half shank point shoe, and think about the shank strength you're in. I've had dancers that were in super hard shanks by various brands, and I've put them in a slightly softer shank in a 3/4, and they've been like amazing. They haven't gone through the shanks, through the point shoes as quickly as they would usually, and it's just been a godsend to them. So do speak to your teacher and your fitter about that and see what can be done. Now, I would also say do experiment with other styles of shoe too, because maybe it's a case of it could be also this, the vamp of the shoe, which is the front bit here. If you're in a shoe that is too long in the vamp, typically you won't be getting fully onto the point like this. You'll be leaned back a little bit if it's restricting you. Now, imagine a combination of being held back in the shoe, but also being in a shank that's too rigid and it's not breaking in where it should be. A combination of those two things is also going to lead to too much stress on the shank and it bending in half and breaking. So that's another factor you might want to consider. If another common fit problem actually is being in too soft a shank. So the opposites, some dancers are already in too strong a shank, which is too strong for them, or other dancers are in too soft a shank, which is meaning that their shoes are bending. I mean, this is a super soft shank, and as you can see, my shoe has already got a lot of flexibility in it now. This shoe is actually dying, if not pretty much dead already. But you do want flexibility there, so don't be worried if your shoe is bending like this. It doesn't mean it's dead yet. You'll be able to tell that when you're on point, because of course your shoe will die either in the box, the platform, and the shank. It just depends. Every dancer's shoe breaks differently. So you do want to make sure you've got a shank with good flexibility, but you don't want a too soft a shoe. So if maybe it's a case of you're in a shoe that is too soft for you and you have a tendency to break that shoe down too quickly, but typically this video is about snapping the actual shank in half. It's also a case of, you might be like, some dancers brag about it, like, oh, I've got such strong arches, I've got high arches, I'm super flexible. Just because you're flexible doesn't mean that you're strong. Typically people who have got hypermobility are actually quite weak. They actually need to do a lot more strengthening work to ensure that they're not going over the shoe enough. That's another factor. If you're hypermobile You will be going over in the shoe a lot, so you want to make sure you're in a shoe that keeps you well supported and actually on the platform of the shoe, and not going over and not having your foot pop out the shoe either. So just because you're going through shoes quickly, it doesn't mean that you're super strong. It doesn't mean that you've got amazing arches. I mean, maybe you have, great for you, but you know, I've witnessed dancers who think they've got super strong feet, think they've got incredible arches, and that's the reason they're breaking the shoe, but it's not actually. It's a case of the fact that they're just not in the right shoe style and they're not in the right shank. Now, another problem that really bugs me is some pointe shoe fitters and shops don't really understand this. They just, you know, they see a dancer with a strong foot and they whack them in a strong shank. They don't think about the fact that the shank is full shank, 3/4 or half. They just whack them in a stronger shoe and send them away, take their money. They're just bothered about making a sale, and you know, maybe they're just not educated enough. But typically it is the reason, you know, you need a 3/4 shank basically, and you need a shank that is right for you. So don't be afraid to ask them to try different shank styles, and speak to them about a 3/4 shank shoe that will be better for you. Also, it might be a case of you may need a custom order shoe. Now that's not all bad if you do. There's plenty of options. I mean, a lot of brands do custom order now. Grishko, of course, do great custom order shoes. This is a custom order shoe here of mine. This is a Grishko Maya. So that might be another factors to consider. So please don't, you know, kind of write everything off now. Really think about your options, because you don't want to be wasting loads of money on shoes and going through shoes like no tomorrow. Do actually consider getting it checked out and trying a different shank, or you know, a different shoe. Maybe it's a case if you need to try a different brand as well, but typically the reason is you do need a 3/4 shank. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a mail, and remember that I am a Grishko Stockist and I do pointe shoe fitting, so I can help you out if you're local to me. I'm in Essex and London, but I do travel all around. So drop me a mail, leave a comment in the comment box below, or you can find my Facebook page and website, which is also in the box below. Thank you for watching my channel, and please subscribe. Thanks, bye.